right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome inside the Fan Cave. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Sorry, just momentary joke that happened ahead of time. All you have to do is call us at 412-575-2600. That is the number to call right here in the Fan Cave, or where Andrew Fillipponi is up at 93.7 The Fan. And tonight the Pirates are on 93.7 The Fan, so this show won't be there, but we're here on KDKA+. And Andrew, the draft is over. The results are good. But I would bet almost every city says that, with the possible exception of Atlanta and what they did with Michael Penix. Your overall take on what you saw over the weekend?
I loved it. I thought they did so many good things, so many right things. So many players fell to them, and they got great value. They might have come away from this draft with 4 day-one starters. I think that's entirely possible. Fautanu at tackle, Frazier at center, Roman Wilson is one of their 3 receivers, and Peyton Wilson next to Patrick Queen on defense. And I think the guy they got in the 4th round, McCormick, when James Daniels' contract expires after this year, I think he becomes a starting guard. So by next year, 2025, I think they'll get 5 starters from this draft, and I think a couple of them could go on to be Pro Bowlers. So they've got that going for them, Bob, and apparently they want to add a significant playmaker, according to your friend and mine, B-Mac Bryant McFadden. And that significant playmaker scuttlebutt has been going crazy in the last few hours. I know you have opinions on this. Who do you think is the significant playmaker that Omar Khan is on the verge of landing right now?
Well, first of all,
theory.
I got to think that they're not satisfied with the depth of the wide receiving core, so they have to be looking at possibilities there. I'm not sure what that would be, and if it's a trade that we're talking about, then I'd like to know exactly what they're up against, because some of these guys, you know, we mentioned Ayuk several weeks ago, but that just didn't make a lot of sense given what the price tag would be and how they fit him in. But, I mean, there are other candidates. I'm not sure who it would be. I mean, I see all this stuff, and I don't know what to believe. But I do think B-Mac has his finger on the pulse. He knows a lot of players. So if he's saying that is a possibility, then they're working on something, I'm sure. So whether or not it results in a, you know, you can say cornerback, you could say wide receiver. Both of those needs are real.
He said not a corner. He said it's a wide receiver when he was asked to clarify that.
As a free agent or a trade? If you're talking about work, it has to be a trade I'm talking about, right? Because how many free agents are out there? Not many.
That's a good point. I mean, there's not many. Odell Beckham Jr. to me was a significant playmaker. He is not. Neither one of those guys is a significant playmaker anymore. OBJ was early on in his Giants career, not anymore, not in a very long time. He never scared me in Baltimore last year. His 500 receiving yards. He was just a guy in that offense. Before he tore his ACL in the Super Bowl, he looked like he was still playing at a high level, has not been the same guy since. And then Mike Kliss, who is the Ed Bouchette of Denver, came out and said, Cortland Sutton not getting traded, and he responded to Antonio Brown's fake news account, CT, ESPN. That is where we are in 2024. Hall of Fame level journalists are responding to accounts like CT, ESPN, Bob. So there's a lot out there. It's hard to parse through it because we don't have the checkmark thing. On Twitter, it's very tough. You get tricked once in a while by some of these. And so do I. I think it's a real report. It's not. But I want to believe, you said Ayuk, not a fan of it. I want Samuel.
Well, wait a minute.
I want Deebo Samuel.
I'm a fan of Ayuk. Don't get me wrong. I'm just not a fan of that coming to fruition, given what it would take financially. That's my biggest hurdle.
Well, I would do Samuel then, because his contract's locked in, and there's 2 years left on it. And his kind of style of play, where he does it all, is very similar to how Arthur Smith used Cordero Patterson in Atlanta. And Deebo is a much better player as a all-around receiver and running back than Patterson. So that's what I'm hoping it is, Bob, because that would be the missing piece. That would be the last puzzle piece here in creating, I think, a very well-rounded Steelers roster.
Yes, I would agree. I think they need it, and they're probably working toward it. We'll see what happens in the next several days. But You're going to hear a lot of speculation about that, and it could be somebody else. It could be somebody we're not even talking about. I look at teams that have significant depth in their wide receiving core, and I try to figure out. I went through a list tonight, but I'm not sure of all the contractual situations with those. So, if that's the case, good for them. They need to do it because it's the one missing component, as you say. Although cornerback, I got to believe they like Corey Trice. I got to believe they think that he's going to be a player who can step up in year 2 after that injury and become somebody they could rely on.
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, that's the way things look for him in mini camp and rookie camp, but he also has had multiple knee injuries, and he was a 7th-round pick. So I don't want to count on him. If he plays and plays well, he's an added bonus, in my opinion. I also think there are better options than former Steeler Cam Sutton, who they reportedly met with. We know what happened with Sutton. Allegedly, he was arrested, then he went missing. The Lions cut him. What the authorities down in Florida said about that situation, they gave a very firm, stern message on domestic violence in the way that whole situation went down. It's not as if he's the only corner out there. You've got guys like Stephon Gilmore. So I would be more interested in that, Bob, than bringing Sutton back at this time.
Yeah, unless they figure out something and it's a very low cost, I don't know. I agree with you, though. Generally speaking, I don't think that will happen. What will happen next is we're taking your phone call, so call us at 412-575-2600. Hit us up on Twitter at KDPomp, at The Pony Express. We're live tonight on KDK Plus. Want to hear from you on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. This is our GMC Sierra tweet of the night, and it's from Pro Football Focus, and this is the grades. 2 years of Omar Khan leading the way with Andy Weidel alongside and Mike Tomlin. A+, A+. And that's good to see. And they've done it with a meat and potatoes approach, going, guys who have potential, obviously, but also college resumes, and I think they put a heavy emphasis on that in this draft. Welcome back, Bob Pompeani, Andrew Fillipponi. And Pony, I do want to talk hockey real quick. I want to point this out on a tweet from Zach Williams. He says, do you guys realize only a handful of NHL teams have gone longer than the Penguins not winning a playoff series in the last 6 years, which is correct. Now I watched tonight as Evan Rodriguez, the former Penguin, got a dagger goal for Florida to eliminate Tampa Bay. And they're going to find life a little different, I would imagine, next year. They went back-to-back with Stanley Cup championships after getting there 3 straight years, and then they've been first-round exits, I think, 2 years in a row now. What do you think will happen with that team? Because they're heading in the same direction. The Penguins, before them, Detroit and Chicago went down that road.
Yeah, they also have a situation where I don't think they want to fire the coach, John Cooper, because of what you just said there. The amount of success they've had, the core group of players, also hard to move on from those guys. Stamkos, Kucherov is still elite. Vasilevsky had an off year. Hedman looks like he's starting to decline a little bit. Point, still a big-time scorer. So they're probably going to, I would say, rearrange the pieces that are around those group of guys. Takes a lot of guts to trade or move on from any of those guys, Bob. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this Nick Kypreos rumor about Mike Sullivan. Have you given any thoughts on that, Bob? Have you stepped up to the plate here and responded? Because we know Fitzgerald, his connection to the Penguins, and Mike Sullivan wants to play a style, though, that is very, I think, would be perfect for what the Devils want to be and who they are, which is young and fast. So that's what made me think about the New Jersey. I think would be interested, but would Sullivan want to leave here? They love him. Ownership can't get enough of him. Sid wants to keep playing for him. But what if he thinks the Devils in their youth, and Hughes when he comes back from his injury, what if he thinks that gives him a better chance to win a Stanley Cup? Have you thought about that, Bob?
Yeah, I have, and I respect Nick Kypreos. He has some pretty good contacts and sources, but I just don't think that's feasible right now, because I think really Sullivan wants to be here. They have made a commitment to him, unless that changes and there's something going on we don't know about. They fired their Wilkes-Barre Scranton, but I think those guys down there, they're not Kyle Dubas's guys. You want to bring in Kyle Dubas's guys. That's what he's there to do, and he will have a say in that. I just don't see that as a possibility, given how much time, unless there's a trade involved. maybe that's something that could happen, because the Penguins certainly need some help with more talent. No, I don't think that's a possibility. And I was shocked when I first read it, but then again, nothing should shock me based on what goes on in sports today. Hey, listen to this. This is a tweet from Kevin Davis before we get to our number one Cochran Go One Better caller of the night. He says, Pomp and Pony. Remember when we had a podcast there, Pony? I don't know. Man, come on. Even if Cam Sutton were on the Steelers' radar, how long would he be allowed to play given the fact that he'll be facing a suspension, which is a good point. He will be, because the NFL is not going to let this go without some suspension time involved.
You wouldn't think so, the way that they've revised their policies ever since the Ray Rice situation. Now, it hasn't been consistent. I think that's one of the issues here that we've seen. It doesn't seem to be that Roger Goodell wants to rule with the iron fist that he did even a few years ago. But the Steelers met with him, and it was Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan, which makes you think there was at least a football discussion. Maybe it was more about life mentoring and
I think that's what it was. My gut tell, because I know Mike has a strong relationship with a lot of these guys. He probably looked at a person in need, whatever the case. He wanted to help them. I think that's it, but who knows? With Omar involved, maybe it's something more than that. But we'll find out in time.
Well, Bob, either way, they're going to have to find another corner because you got to play 3. Okay, this is the NFL in 2024. There's so many slot receivers and 3 wide receiver sets. That is now the base offense. And if they had to line up and play a game tomorrow, who would be that third corner for the Steelers? Would it be the kid they drafted in the 7th round?
Yeah, I don't know. That's just like last year. You have 2 7th-round guys going at it, maybe. How about Rush? He's still on the roster. They brought him in. I'm not sure what he's capable of doing. And there's still guys out there they can get. It's reasonable to think they may bring back Patrick Peterson. Who knows? I don't know if that's the right move to make, but they can certainly do that with veterans. Anyway, let's get to the Lions, Pony. We have Dave in Pittsburgh as our #1 Cochran Go One Better caller of the night. Hello, David. How are you?
Good, guys. Yeah, I think we had a fantastic draft. I'm very happy with everybody we got. Really good character guys. I was just hoping we would be able to get Jerry Rice's son at wide receiver, but we didn't have any 7th-round picks.
I mean, yeah, the wide receiver, other than Roman Wilson, who I like, I don't know if Roman Wilson is enough. He played in an offense at Michigan where he was really more of a blocker, and he understood it, embraced it, and what was his saying? No block, no rock. He understood what was going on. It's very similar to what they may ask of him here. He's sort of the anti-Deontay Johnson in that respect. But I don't expect big numbers from him because I think they're going to try to run the ball a lot. I still think they need another guy to go down the field, some deeper threat.
Well, we talked to the voice of Michigan football today, and he thinks that Roman Wilson has a lot in common with Tyler Lockett. And we saw Russell Wilson and Lockett at a very good connection in Seattle. So if that's what this kid develops into, and Lockett was a mid-round pick, then he would be a great #2 wide receiver for the Steelers in years to come. I do think that potential is there. The speed is outstanding. The route running is coming on. It's much improved. The hands are excellent. He made clutch play after clutch play, including the catch he made over the middle against Alabama in the tournament last year, the semifinal round. So I think he is a future starting receiver. I think he is going to be a 1,000-yard receiver sooner rather than later. I think his numbers are just not as good as others because, as you pointed out, Bob, they were a run-first team at Michigan this past year. They were a throwback team.
But when they got into trouble, J.J. McCarthy often looked in his direction, which is, when you have that sort of relationship with a guy, you trust him because he doesn't drop passes. I think he had 1 drop all year. All right, back to the lines we go. We have Michael in Blairsville. Hey, Michael, how are you?
Yeah, gentlemen, how you doing? Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I was just wondering, all these new players they got this year. I'm looking forward to the season, but I keep thinking in the back of my head that something might happen to Russell Wilson, like Aaron Rodgers last year, and I'd just like to know if you guys think that this Fields or whatever his backup will be able to take over.
Well, I hope that doesn't happen because he took, 2 snaps and he was out for the rest of the season and put the Jets in a ridiculous, terrible spot. I think Russell Wilson will be fine. They have enough around him as long as they don't expect him to win games by himself after they trail. And I don't like that situation, which is why I think they're going to try to, play a fundamentally sound game, use the run game to set up the pass game and create those situations. But I'm very intrigued about Justin Fields. Andrew, I think we're going to see a lot of both these guys in the preseason. I think Fields still has untapped potential there. I think he's gone through a lot of growing pains in Chicago. They bailed on him. Surprisingly, nobody else really wanted him, even though there were so many quarterback needs around the NFL. I still think that's a diamond in the rough kind of pickup.
So do I. I mean, he's one of the great running quarterbacks really of all time. He's got a 1,000-yard rushing season. You look at some of his stats all time, and he gets compared to guys like Cam Newton and Michael Vick and Lamar Jackson, early years of their careers. So I do think that there's something there. that you really want to dig into. I think he has a better chance of being the Steelers' starting quarterback next year than even Russell Wilson. And as far as, what they're trying to be this year, Bob, what do you make of Najee Harris in the fifth-year option still not having been picked up? We're seeing fifth-year options executed around the NFL. Do you think it'll absolutely happen, or are you starting to maybe question if it's a done deal?
Well, I thought it would be done already. May 2nd is the deadline. That's coming up this week. But I thought because you don't have to wait until then that it would be done. I don't know. At this point, I still think it's going to be done. It's not a big cost. It's like $6-point-something million, and they could run that out for 2 more years, and then Harris can be on his own and do whatever he wants at that point. And by then, they'll be looking for somebody else. So I'm still of the belief that he's going to get that done. And we're due for a break. We'll take it right now. We have Cuss and we have Jeff on the lines. We'll try to get to you when we come back right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, KDKA+. All right, welcome back. Let's check in with Ken Rice over in Studio A. What's happening tonight on KDK News at 11, Ken?
Hey, Bob. Tonight, Pittsburgh Regional Transit announcing more closures for the Mon Incline. We have the details, plus how a private developer is working to revitalize a local town's downtown, and why Butler County is being sued by 2 of its residents. All ahead at 11, Bob.
All right, Ken, thanks very much. Just squeeze in Jeff in Beaver Falls. Jeff, make it quick, please.
Yeah, hi, Bob. I was wondering, I'm watching the Pirate game tonight, and I was wondering if they still have Mario Mendoza as their batting coach. It's getting terrible. They just can't hit the ball.
Well, I guess it's 3-1. It was 1 run. They got on a wild pitch. It's their only run. Andrew, their numbers are, if I had told you at the beginning of the year they'd be top 6, top 7 team ERA or starting pitching ERA, would you have thought that would have been good enough to get through what they've gone through? Then you look at 8 blown saves and an awful offense right now.
Yeah, no power to speak of. Really, it's that's the issue, in my opinion, is that you've got no easy runs, no microwave runs, nobody putting the ball over the wall consistently. Tellez, 1 home run, did not hit a single home run in April. But hey, maybe our viewer was watching on the streaming only app now. You can do that apparently, Bob. You can just cut that cord. That's a new app.
It's like a la carte at the restaurant. That's what it's going to get to with all these streaming services. I'm not sure. All I know is,
you're at a fancy place when the sides are a la carte. You know you're at a big 5-star place when the sides don't come included with that meal.
All right, a little French martini action. We've got a night complete. Thank you, Pony. Appreciate it. Have a good night. Thank you guys out there. And Gus, sorry, didn't get you in tonight. We'll try again tomorrow. Call earlier right here at 412-575-2600. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Good night.